Welcome to Pastor Talk. I'm Pastor Steve. I want to title the devotion today, The Fool's Heart. You know, there's some people that say they just don't believe there's a God. You know, this is nothing new. We can go back into Scripture, and we go back 3,000 years ago to the book of Psalms, and we have at least twice. We have Psalm 14 and Psalm 53. Where the scripture says this, that a fool has said in his heart that there is no God. So it's nothing new, this thing that we hear today. There's people that call themselves atheists. They say they don't believe in God. And so this is nothing new. It goes back way in early Bible times, in the history of earth, you might say. And I'd like to discuss that for a moment. First of all, I'd like to say that I just don't believe a person's born that way. I believe a person, according to Scripture, is born in the image of God with the ability to reason, the ability to think, the ability to know, because they're made in the image of God, to know there's a God. I believe there's a little bit of faith that's been placed in every person in this earth to know that there is a God. And so I just don't believe a person's born that way. I think that a person who knows what happens, but I think a person through the years convinces themselves that there's no God for whatever the reason. They may have been hanging around with the wrong people, or taught by the wrong people, or just things haven't gone the way they think. It's really comes down to the issue of sin. The Bible makes it very clear that sin, it blinds us to the truth. The scriptures tell us that sin hardens, kind of like a callus. It just hardens the heart, and a person becomes blinded to truth, which is biblical truth and spiritual truth, the reality that there's a God. I think a person can truly convince themselves and be hardened through the years to believe that there's no God. But you know, in Romans chapter 1, addressing a different issue, the Apostle Paul tells us that there be no excuse for any human being on this earth. That every one of us knows in our heart there's a God, that we can look at the visible things that have been made by an invisible God. We can look at the stars, we can look at the sun, we can look at the moon. I'm sitting on my back porch, and I so often look at the beautiful trees, and I have a bird feeder and a bird houses, and I do quite often do what Jesus told us to do. He said, why are you worrying? He says, just look at the birds. God takes care of them. Look how beautiful a bird is. Look at this neat little creation that God has created, and the beauty of a bird, and the marvel that they can fly. And then he says, look at the flowers. Have you ever just looked deep into the beauty of just look deep into a flower, a real pretty flower? It's just a marvelous thing. And so God tells us very clearly that we don't have an excuse, that we can recognize from what we see, the universe and the world around us, that there's a God. And so no man on earth will ever have an excuse when they are standing before the Lord to say, well, I just didn't know. Now, they may not have heard the gospel clearly, but they will not have an excuse to claim being an atheist. Let's put it that way. And so I want you to know today, I want you to be blessed. As a believer, of course, we understand there's a God, but I want you to understand there is a God, and only a fool would say in his heart there's no God. And so I hope this kind of helps you a little bit to understand what the Scripture says about this, and to understand that I just hope you're blessed from this little talk today. And I want to thank you for coming to Pastor Talk, and this is Pastor Steve. And may God bless you.